This is Teapot from Sports Card Investor, and I'm loving the content here on Sports Card Strategy Show and the NoOffSeason.com Sports Card Network. Be sure to subscribe for year-round advice on keeping your portfolio up to date because there is no off-season.
What's up, everybody? This is Chris Kelsey from Nash Cards, and you are watching the Sports Card Strategy Show where there is no off-season.
What's up, everybody? I'm Paul Hickey with NoOffSeason.com. This is the Sports Card Strategy Show brought to you by Graybo Sports Cards. Graybo Sports Cards is a local card shop located in Richmond, Virginia, and is owned by Gray Burnett, Ryan Fitz, and Duke Dodson, who you know is Denny one time. Graybo sports the best selection of singles in the Mid-Atlantic and a wide variety of wax. Graybo's is happy to announce that they are now the only direct buyer of Topps Bowman in Central Virginia and are now breaking daily on Fanatics Live. They are moving to their new larger shop, which will be connected to the hottest sports bar in Richmond in the near future. Stay tuned for those details. Listeners of Sports Card Strategy Show can use the promo code GRAYBOS20 to get $20 off their first purchase with Graybo's on Fanatics Live. Don't forget to get a free 30-day trial at NoOffSeason.com today to help you make money flipping sports cards, build your sports card investment portfolio, get unlimited advice from our experts, and take Sports Card School to navigate the hobby. That's NoOffSeason.com. Get your free 30-day trial today. All the data we use on the Sports Card Strategy Show is from MarketMoversApp.com. Use code NOOFFSEASON at MarketMoversApp.com to get 20% off for life after a free 14-day trial. All right, let's get to the Sports Card Strategy. What's up, everybody? I am your host, Paul Hickey with NoOffSeason.com. We welcome in thousands and thousands and thousands of new listeners consistently on Apple, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. And we're growing at youtube.com/Paul Hickey too. For those of you out there who are not familiar with our mission, it is first and foremost to help you get smarter and make the best possible moves for yourself in the hobby so that you do not waste your money. We think that equals fun. Fun in the hobby is our mission for you. And we help you with buying and selling, which is also known as flipping. So we're here to help you make money flipping sports cards on the Sports Card Strategy Show. Today, we're going to take a look at the top 5 cards to buy raw and grade. Ooh, baby, I like it raw, said ODB. We like it raw here too. But today is going to have a little twist. We're going to talk about cracking and resubmitting or crossover submitting cards in our top 5. We're going to talk about whether or not we think you should sell Paul Skenes. Speaking of building grading submissions, Will They Gem is back. I'll look at my current grading submission, how I'm building it, and whether or not you guys think they can gem. I cracked a new BECKETT slab over the weekend. I'm going to share that with you. It was a bit harder to crack. We're going to talk about being okay being outbid. That is part of our overall sports card strategy here at the NoOffSeason.com fam, is being okay being outbid, because you got to get in at the right price. We've got some great CGC data to share with you, courtesy of our guy Andy Kaysen at Football Card Quest. I had my first ever PSA Upcharge. I was just talking about this with Lefty McKee on Lefty Cards. So we're going to do a PSA reveal at the end of the show. Stick around for that. And got my first ever PSA Upcharge, which for those of you who don't know, that is great news, and I'll explain why. And there is a new eBay update in terms of what is happening with their transition to the PSA Vault. We've talked about that a lot on the show. And a new breaking update came in from eBay right before I went live today. So I'm going to share that with you. But first, it's time for some live chat love. Many, many, many of you are in the house. Good to see all of you. Gabe Davis and Hoosier Card Guy are in the house first. Good to see both of you guys. And remember, if you're in the live chat at youtube.com/Paul Hickey, Drop your L's, drop your dubs. I'll shout you out throughout the show and at the end of the show. And anybody out there, if you want your questions answered, I am here for you. Just go to nooffseason.com/ask. That's nooffseason.com/ASK. And I'm going to answer your questions every Friday on the premium pod. If you're a premium member, you know what's up. And if you're not, it's okay. You can get in for free. It's free to be a premium member for 30 days. Go to nooffseason.com, nooffseason.com/ask to upgrade and ask that question. If you like the content we're putting out on a daily, weekly basis, please be sure to like, comment, and subscribe at youtube.com/Paul Hickey. It helps us out a lot. And if you really want to get in on the action and you're on the podcast apps quite a bit, not able to make it over to youtube.com/Paul Hickey to comment, you can join the Discord at sportscardstrategy.com. There's always a link at sportscardstrategy.com to join the Discord. Speaking of some ongoing discussion, something that happened late last week that we put an article out about at nooffseason.com, a sell alert, in fact. If you want a sell alert, text sports cards to 1-833-992-5727, and it will text you the sell alerts for various athletes when we think you should sell them based on their pricing going up. And that leads us into our question of the day, because we sent out a sell alert for this gentleman late last week when he got the call up, Paul Skenes. Question of the day, Paul Skenes, sell now, hold, or grade? What we want you to do is head on over to Instagram at SportsCardStrategy, follow us, and answer the question of the day. Paul Skenes, sell now, hold, or grade? And the reason why this is relevant is because many of us, myself included, were building a grading submission. We were in the process of building a grading submission, acquiring Paul Skenes cards, because the formula at nooffseason.com, we have a formula to help you make money flipping sports cards. And it is our formula-based rankings where we have a mathematical equation that spits out the top ROI, return on investment, and then we rank cards that way. And Skenes had 2 cards, raw to grade on the formula, and I was building a grading submission. And then when he got the call up, I thought, oh no, what do I do? Do I keep the grading submission with Skenes in it, aka double down, roll the dice a little bit on Skenes? Is he going to perform well? Is his pricing going to continue to go up like Ellie De La Cruz's did last year? Or is it going to plummet down like Jackson Holiday, Jackson Churio have done this year since their call up? So Skenes is obviously a pitcher. He kind of breaks the mold a little bit. And we typically say don't buy pitchers. In fact, if you're familiar with our content over at nooffseason.com and Sports Card School, we have a guideline at Sports Card School, our guidelines, strategies, and plays. And one of the guidelines is only buy a pitcher if his name is Shohei Ohtani. And Paul Skenes pretty much is breaking that mold. The formula has proven that. So I've bought a couple of Paul Skenes cards, and he had his major league debut on Saturday. He pitched 4 innings, struck out 7 batters, and apparently hit the 100-mile-per-hour mark, which he's famous for, 17 times. So all in all, it was kind of a mixed debut, I think, because he did allow 4 runs, 3 or 4 runs in 4 innings. Got a no decision, but he looked good. I mean, and he's a powerhouse. 6'6", 230 pounds, massive right arm, massive porn star stash, which of course the hobby likes. And so there's a lot of momentum around Paul Skenes right now. And I want to know, are you selling him? Are you holding him? Are you grading him? What are you doing with Paul? What are you doing with Paul Skenes? Let me know. Drop a comment on the pinned post at Instagram, Sports Card Strategy, or drop a comment below at youtube.com/Paul Hickey. All right. Let's look at some Skenes data. Okay. Because we put out the sell alert, and warranted. It's warranted. The sell alert is warranted, but I also wouldn't blame you if you do continue to grade his cards. Interesting sales data here. A lot of his cards are up a lot. So you've got a 2023 Bowman's Best Top Prospects Refractor Raw That sold 42 times in the last 7 days. That's up 142%, $7.35. I would sell that card. I would not grade it. Bowman's Best is not a brand that holds value long term. Paper first PSA 10 out of 2023 Bowman draft. This is kind of ridiculous. It sold yesterday for $131. That's up $72.07, up $123. If you got that one, I would sell it. It sold 57 times in the last 7 days. His 2023 Bowman Draft Chrome First PSA 9 sold 17 times in the last 7 days. That's up $32. So a PSA 9 up $32. You're making money on that. I would sell that card. SGC 10 paper first is up $23. I would sell that card. You've got his auto, his base auto PSA 9 is up $130 in the last 7 days. That's up 60.5%. I would sell that card. I think if you've got some autos that could gem, I think you could be in good shape grading them. But if you look at the raw auto, which is what we talk about a lot on the Sports Card Strategy Show, the raw auto is up 70%. It sold yesterday for $267. Now I bought one, I think for $225, and I think another one for around $250. So if I were to just sell them, while I would be up, it's not like a huge profit margin. So it could end up being an L if you don't do your math, which the formula does for you. So for now, I'm going to go ahead and just grade mine. But I want to know, what are you guys doing? I think the sell alert is warranted, but I want to know what you guys are doing. I'll say hello to Millionaire Secrets. That one guy is in the house. And David T is in the house. K Cards, what's up? I have been well. I hope you have been well too. It's great to see all of you in the live chat. All right, now I want to get into something that I'm excited about. I've been cooking this up in the lab. I've been in the lab cooking more things up. Of course, we've innovated quite a bit recently. For those of you who are new to the fam, we've innovated quite a bit recently. We've dropped something called the formula. It is a way to prioritize out of all the millions and millions and millions of sports cards out there that you could buy. And there are millions of them. There's like several thousand rookie cards for the top players if you're new to this. And so we want to help you not make mistakes. We want to help you buy the right card for the right player at the right time. So what we've been doing for the last several weeks is, instead of just saying, we think this is the right card for the right player at the right time, we've been taking all of the cards that we think are the right card for the right player at the right time, and then some. And then we've been double checking ourselves by running those cards through our formula at nooffseason.com, which prioritizes it by the projected ROI. And from a raw to grade standpoint, you can make a lot of money if you use our sports card formula at nooffseason.com. But you can make even more money if you're strategic about what I'm about to show you, which is a little bit different. It is buying an already graded card and then regrading it. And regrading it can take on a couple of different forms. One can be cracking it. We actually talk a lot about cracking slabs here at the Sports Card Strategy Show. We show you cracking slabs quite a bit. I show you myself cracking slabs quite a bit at youtube.com/Paul Hickey and on Instagram at Sports Card Strategy. For those of you listening on the podcast apps, you're missing out on at least me showing you how I crack those slabs. But if you're listening on the podcast apps, you still get me voicing it over, which is really the main takeaway, because I'm not just cracking slabs. I'm doing it strategically with a play in mind. So that's one way to do it. The other way to do it is to do a crossover submission. So you can submit cards to PSA at a service level called crossover grading, and you can do multiple cards at a time, or you can do one card at a time. There's no minimum. It's just based on the projected value of that card in the grade that you desire it in And the service level would either be around $75 per card or $129 per card at the crossover level for the most part. There might be some exceptions to that, but for the most part, so when crossing it over, what you actually do, for those of you who don't know, is you send in the card in its current slab. So whether that be an SGC slab, a BGS slab, hopefully you're not doing CGC slabs because they're our network partner and we love CGC cards and we want to keep as many cards in CGC slabs as possible. But it could be a slab from another grading company, HGA, things like that. So the strategy there would be that you would send it in its current slab. Now, let's walk through the, I guess, the pros and cons of each. So in a crossover submission, they review the card in its current slab. And you can put a minimum grade on there. And we'll talk about that as I walk you through the top 5. So there's a top 5 coming up and a bonus card as well. So we'll talk you through that. The minimum grade requirement is something you can put on a crossover submission only. The risk in a crossover submission is that there could be a bias towards what the other company graded it at. And we'll elaborate on that throughout today's show as well. The reward is that you don't have to crack it out yourself. You can tell PSA a minimum grade, and if it doesn't meet that minimum grade, they will keep it in that slab for you. So I guess then you would always have the card, undamaged back in that slab. You pay PSA for that. So that makes sense for a really, really expensive card, like a much higher dollar card that you're either nervous cracking out yourself or that maybe there's multiple attempts because there's so much potential profit margin built in. And I'll elaborate on that in a second. So when cracking the slab yourself, you're submitting them raw, which means there's a few different pros to this. And this is typically I crack slabs. When you're cracking them, you're submitting them raw. And that allows you to put them in a bulk value submission. So that could be $19.99 a card at the basic bulk value service level. That could be at a discounted level, like we saw in April. It was down to $16.99 for PSA members, and there's no bias towards what the other grading company graded it at, right? So you're not dealing with a grader looking at an already graded card and saying, oh, well, this grading company gave it an 8 on the edges, so I'm really going to find a flaw in the edges. And you're not sending in like a Gem Mint 10 from another grading company, hoping that PSA will just automatically give it a Gem Mint 10. There could be some bias there. We don't know. There could be a grader who's like, I don't want to give it a Gem Mint 10. This other grading company is not as good as our grading company, so I'm going to give it a 9. I don't have any proof that happens, but there's no proof that doesn't happen either. So we don't know. So before I dig into the strategy behind this top 5, I do want to go back to the live chat and say a real quick hello to Paul Kaiser Sose 1209. Good to see you. Sergeant Slabs in the house. Mr. T. Matt S., who is a new premium member at nooffseason.com. Matt, got your question for the premium pod. Pumped to answer it on Friday. Stay tuned. You're the man. Luke Menchel is in the house, and a name that we haven't heard from in a while, who I am excited to see, and that's Oh My Shoes. What is up, Oh My Shoes? Good to see you, my man. All right. So we're going to count down 5 cards plus a bonus card that are massive, massive, massive opportunities for you guys to profit a ton. And I'm going to break this down from a risk-reward scenario. So what we're about to do is we're going to look at 6 different cards in BGS slabs, okay? BECKETT Grading Services. The reason why this strategy can work is basically we're going to look at BGS slabs. Number one, it can work crossing them over to PSA or cracking them out and submitting them to PSA. Number one, because Beckett does not sell for as much money as PSA on the secondary market by a lot. Okay. So there's an opportunity there. There's an opportunity to buy already graded cards, because sometimes when you're buying raw cards, it's impossible to tell the true condition buying online. And sometimes, as good of a job as you think you're doing pre-grading the card, even in person, you miss things, right? So when you're buying an already graded card by another grading company, you have that pretty much guarantee that it's not several grades lower than what it is, right? You don't have a guarantee that it's going to grade equal at PSA. You don't have a guarantee that it's going to grade only one grade lower or one grade higher. But the other thing you have with BGS is you have subgrades. This is another reason number two why this strategy works, is because you have subgrades. Subgrades mean, two things really. You have subgrades give you 4 different grades of the card from BGS. You get a centering grade, you get an edges grade, you get a corners grade, and you get a surface grade. And those are really the 4 major criteria that every grading company looks at. And there's some details that go into each of those 4 categories, but these subgrades basically roll up to a total grade on the card. And because there's subgrades, BGS has half grades. So that's the other reason why this works, because PSA has half grades too, but they don't grade as often with the half grades, and PSA doesn't show you the half grades. So the reason why this ultimately works for all of those factors is because you can buy a BGS card not only cheaper than a PSA card, but you can look at the factors that a reputable grading company, BGS, has graded it, and you can determine what PSA grade you think that card would get. And then you can determine, do I want to crack it out myself and submit it in a bulk value submission? We talked about a couple of risks there. Or do I want to cross it over and pay a little bit more for that and risk not getting the grade that I want, but I guess worst case scenario, get it back in the same slab and just lose your grading fee and your shipping fee. So the biggest thing to consider here is, just because it was graded, say, a 9 at BGS, does not give you any assurances at all that it will even get an 8 at PSA. Like, I've learned that firsthand. So you really have to dig into the numbers. Now, I'm trying to build a formula for this at nooffseason.com, the same way that I've built a formula for the raw to grade and the already graded cards. I'm trying to build a regrade tab of the formula for nooffseason.com premium members. But in the meantime, as I'm trying to grade it, I wanted to reveal, again, my top 5 plays for you to look out for, as well as a bonus card. Now, I will say we've had a lot of comments as our community has grown. Our community has grown quite a bit. It grows a lot, like month over month. And I appreciate all of you for that. Like, I love this community. I love the nooffseason.com fam. None of it would happen without all of you guys. So I really, really, really appreciate all of your support. And the more that you continue to put into me, you can bet it's coming back at you times 10, because I'm putting in the grind all day, every day. I do this as my full-time job, and I love it. As we've grown, we've had the question, Paul, is there enough for us all to eat? Is there enough food out there in the hobby for us all to eat as we grow? And I can assure you, when you see these cards, yes, there's more than enough food for us all to eat. Now, sometimes you got to be a little patient. Sometimes you got to make a reservation at the restaurant months in advance, if you will, right? Meaning you got to do your research maybe for a couple of months sometimes to find these cards that I'm going to tell you about. But they are out there every day. You can save searches on eBay. You can do all kinds of tricks of the trade to find these cards. And, you can go to sportscardschool.com and take sports card school, and there's a lot more tricks of the trade in there. But here we go. Let's get into it. Just know that you can't just follow this blindly. You have to pre-grade the cards yourself and don't overpay. Let's jump in. Okay. Number 5 card today on the regrade top 5. Again, you can ODB, ooh, baby, you like this raw, or you can crossover submit. So you can crack it out to make it raw, or you can crossover submit. And we'll break that down here for this card. This card you're looking for, number 5, is the 1986 Michael Jordan Fleer number 57 in BGS2. Okay. In BGS2, there's a it's pop count of 58, according to our friends at Card Hedge. So we use Market Movers, marketmoversapp.com for all the data on the Sports Card Strategy Show. Get 20% off for life at marketmoversapp.com using the promo code NOOFFSEASON. But we also like Card Hedge. Our friends at Card Hedge have comped us a subscription to demo their product a little bit. And one feature that they have that Market Movers does not currently is pop count for BGS. So according to Card Hedge, this BGS2 Michael Jordan 1986 Fleer number 57 has a pop count of 58. But I found a listing on eBay. So you can find this card. And I think I'm going to start adding listings to nooffseason.com for different cards like this. I just got to figure out in the meantime, before I build this formula, how do I do that? Do I just add it to Michael Jordan's player profile at nooffseason.com? Probably. Stay tuned for that. But here we go. In BGS2, this card, you want to target it at $1,725. That's the current sale price of this card, $1,725. And it's sold multiple times in the last year for that price. In fact, the average sale price in the last year is $1,740. So just $15 more than the most recent sale. So it's consistently selling for that. Now, you're going to see a fluctuation. And the reason you're going to see a fluctuation most likely is because of the subgrades that I mentioned. So in other words, you might have a BGS2 that might be a 2 because it has 3 horrible subgrades, but then it might have one subgrade that is an 8 or something like that. Like, it's not out of the realm of possibility that you would have a BGS2 with maybe 1 8 subgrade and then like 3 1.5 subgrades. You know, I don't like something like that, something similar to that. So you're going to see a fluctuation, and you're going to see some people think, okay, this card looks better than this other card, even though they're both BGS2s, for example. That's going to apply to every single card that we're going to talk about today in this segment. Okay. Now, the thing to remember here, though, is that there's an upside. So if you were to get this BGS2 for the current going rate, which is around $1,725, in PSA 2, it sells for $2,400. Okay. And in PSA 1.5, which is possible to get, it's possible that you would submit a BGS2 and get a PSA 1.5. Your upside, the PSA 1.5 sells for $1,775. So actually it sells for more in PSA 1.5 than it does in BGS2. Your upside, now this is before grading and eBay fees, so you'd probably have to take a couple $100 out of this. Your upside is $675. So you can make one transaction. You can find this BGS2. You can submit it to PSA, even in a crossover submission, and you can make $400 net just by getting it in a PSA 1.5 or a PSA 2, Getting it in a PSA 2 would be your $400 profit after fees and everything. Now, in a PSA 1.5, you would break even, but you would probably actually be at a bit of a loss because you would make 50 net, but then that would go away because you'd have probably $200 in fees. So if you got a PSA 1.5, you would really only be out a couple $100 in fees with the chance to make $400. So it's a pretty safe play, and that's why it's number 5. Number 5 is a safe play. If you get there's a chance that if you crack it, if you find one with good enough eye appeal and you crack it, there's no reason why you couldn't get a PSA 2.5, or even a PSA 3. I don't think you would get a 2.5 or a 3 if you crossed it over. I think the best you would get would be a PSA 2 if you crossed it over. But if you got, if you cracked it out and got a PSA 2.5 or a PSA 3, now all of a sudden you're looking at a little bit more profit margin, not much. So for this one, what you could do, you could crack it out. You could include it in a bulk value submission. The worst thing that would happen to you is you would get an upcharge, and I'll explain that later in the show because I got my first ever upcharge, and it's not that big of a deal. It's actually something you want. Or you could cross it over, and what you could do when you submit it to PSA and you do a crossover, you can put a minimum grade on it, and you could just put minimum PSA 1.5. Now, what that means is they're only going to crack it out if it were to get either a PSA 1.5 or higher, right? Now, who's to rule out a 3? Maybe. I doubt it, but maybe. PSA 2, I would think would be what you're trying to get there. And again, you get it, you make $400 after all your fees. If you don't get it, you still get, if you get a PSA 1.5, I think you break even. And you're down a couple $100, which in the big scheme of things is more of a wash than it is a loss, especially when going in to this play what's happening. And I think if you cross it over, and you get and you get you're not going to get a PSA 1.5, you're going to get a PSA 1, you just get your BGS 2 back. You get a BGS 2 back, but you're out whatever the crossover fee is, which would probably be $75. So I think these things are worth the risk. Now, that is, I think, a safe play. So let's go to number 4. Number 4 is a card that I actually really, really like, and I've had success with number 4 in terms of a crack and submit in the past. I've made quite a bit of money cracking and submitting this card to PSA. Not in this grade, though. This grade would be a BGS 9, and the card that I'm talking about is Joe Montana 1981 Topps 216 base rookie. Okay. What I like about this card is in BGS 9, it's $898. According to Card Hedge, it's a pop 725. So it's much more populated than the Jordan BGS 2. 725 of these out there. Likely you can find it. You might not be able to find it every day of the week, but you could probably you could do an eBay saved search, which we've shown you how to do on the Sports Card Strategy Show and nooffseason.com Sports Card School. You could do an eBay saved search, and you could get alerted essentially by eBay when this card comes available. And it's $898 in BGS 9. Again, try to get one with the best subgrades. And if you think it could get a PSA 9, you can profit quite a bit. $1,980 this sells for in a PSA 9. So your upside before grading and eBay fees is $1,082. And in PSA 8.5, which is a half grade below that, it sells for $630. So that is a loss of $268 before grading and eBay fees. So higher reward, higher risk, but you're not out your entire $898. Okay. You're only out about $300 of your $900. So if you're thinking about the risk reward scenario here, it's still a pretty darn good play to look into. And again, you can go with the crack and submit to take the bias out of it, or you can go with the crossover and you can say, look, I'm only going to have you grade this if it's a PSA 9, right? So then you wouldn't be out any money other than your grading fee on the Montana. Instead, you would just be looking at having your BGS 9 back, which wouldn't be the end of the world. And you could always keep trying that, by the way. You could always keep trying the same thing because there is the upside of $1,082. And there is always the chance that you could find a buyer of the BGS 9 for more than $900 in the future. So I think, there's a lot of great stuff to consider there. And you should try to go find this card because, not all of us have $1,000, but I think to make back over, this is over a 100% ROI opportunity. So I really like the Joe Montana play. All right, up next, we're going to go to back to our guy, Michael Jordan. This time, and it's the same card, but this time we're going to be targeting the BGS 1.5. So last time we talked about the BGS 2. Now let's look at the same card, but what happens if we target the BGS 1.5? This is only a pop 41 according to Card Hedge. Again, shout out Card Hedge. Because it's a 1.5, you got to think it's close to a PSA 2, right? And so if you were to get a PSA 2, you would have an 850 upside before grading and eBay fees because a PSA 2 sells for $2,400. And a PSA 1.5 actually sells for more than the BGS 1.5. So a PSA 1.5 sells for $1,775. So you actually have a downside of a gross profit before grading and eBay fees of $225. So you might have heard me say, well, the Montana has an upside of 1082, but the Jordan here, BGS 1.5, only has an upside of 850. Why is this ranked higher than the Montana? Is because I'm risk averse and I want you guys to be able to mitigate your risk as well. And so when you have a card like this BGS 1.5 of the Jordan 86 Fleer 57, you actually can go horizontally across the grading scale from BGS to PSA 1.5 to 1.5 equals, and you can make money. And those are the ones I like to find the most. So for this, again, you can crack and you can submit raw, or you can put, hey, minimum grade PSA 1.5. And then worst case scenario, you're getting your BGS 1.5 back. But second up from that would be you would make money because you'd get a PSA 1.5. You could get a PSA 2 and you could make $850 before grading and eBay fees. So I like that. Now, it is Michael Jordan Day here on the Sports Card Strategy Show, everybody, because the next card, number 2 on the list, is the 1986 Michael Jordan Fleer sticker number 8. And you'd be targeting it in BGS 8.5. In BGS 8.5, it's a pop 718 according to Card Hedge. And the most recent sales data tells you that you should be targeting it for 1.3K in BGS 8.5. Now, there are some sales in better subgrades that are a little bit higher. There was a sale not too long ago for 1.4K and a sale for 1.67K. And so you're gonna potentially have a better upside at the higher grade if you put a little bit more in to the ones with better subgrades. And so that's why you could say, okay, well, Paul said 1,300, but the average in the last 365 days is 1,530. So if you're targeting more around the 1,530 and you're getting higher subgrades, you're still in a situation where for a PSA 9, you're going to sell it for around $3,300. And you're going to have an upside, even with the larger buy-in at the 1670 for a PSA 8.5. You're going to have an upside if you go up from a BGS 8.5 to a PSA 9 of $1,630 before grading and eBay fees. So if you were to go across the grading scale and get an equal grade at PSA, a PSA 8.5, it sells for $1,670. So you would only be out your grading fee. You would only be out your grading fee. So you could conceivably cross this over and put minimum grade PSA 8.5, and you'd have an upside of $1,630, and you'd have a downside of basically $100 because of your $75 plus shipping crossover grading fee that you would lose. But you get the PSA 8.5 back. Or you could crack it out. You could risk getting a PSA 8 or a PSA 7 or something like that. And in that case, you would lose about $640. So you have an upside of $1,630 for this card. And now we're going to try to swing for the fences here. So this is why this is our number one card. Number one card is we're swinging for the proverbial fences. And it's back to the Michael Jordan 1986 Fleer base 57. This time, you'd be targeting BGS 8.5. Now, the average in the last 365 days of this card is $6,320. The most recent sale is $5,880. According to Card Hedge, the pop count is 2505. And I can validate that this card is readily available all day, every day on eBay. Now, I know from our premium members at nooffseason.com that many of them probably wouldn't have any trouble getting into this card. I know from the world that not everybody has $6,000 just lying around. But the reason why this is actually our number one play, and I think the number one safest play as well, is because even though you need $6,000 to buy into this play, your upside if you get a PSA 9 is $19,420 before fees. Because PSA 9s sell for $25,000. Now, that's not the average sale price in the last 365 days. The average sale price in the last 365 days is a mere $16,300, which is still $11,000 more than the BGS 8.5. It can't be that easy though, right? It can't be that easy. And it's not. It's not that easy. Why? Because of the subgrades, right? Like this most recent sale of this card in PSA 9, I venture to guess had much better eye appeal than the previous two sales in PSA 9. On April 28th, this in PSA 9, the Jordan 86 Fleer 57 base sold for $15,000. A couple of weeks later, it sold for $17,100. It sold the next day for $25,300. I mean, it could be that card legitimately is up 62% in a day. It could be. Or it could just be like the one had that much better eye appeal than the other. It's probably a mix of both, honestly, because this card has sold for over $20,000 several times in the last 365 days. So it's legit. I mean, this is a legit card. None of these cards would be cards that I would recommend buying raw, by the way, because there's a lot of fakes out there. And so that's why it's important for me to do the show around buying already graded cards and then regrading them, either cracking them or submitting as crossover. But this is actually a play that I'm actively working on. I haven't pulled trigger on it yet, but I'm actively working on it because this is why it's safe. In BGS 8.5, if you can get it for around $6,000, $5,880, you've got the upside in a PSA 9 of $25,000 or at least $15,000. That's $10,000 upside, at least, sometimes almost 20 grand upside if you have one with the eye appeal, right? Those are real numbers. Also in PSA 8.5, it sells for $73.80. So just the same grade with a different grading company, which in theory should happen, nets you almost $1,500. And then in a PSA 8 still sells for $63.50. That's one subgrade, that's one half grade down from the BGS 8.5, which sells for $500 less than that. So you can make $470 before fees going one half grade down. That's the downside. So that's why this card hits the sweet spot of everything that we're talking about. So the Michael Jordan 1986 Fleer Base 57 in BGS 8.5, to me, would be like what all high rollers should be doing. But they shouldn't be doing it thinking that BGS 8.5, they can just set it and forget it and it's going to go up over time, which is what a lot of fat cats like to do. No. They need to be on the grind. They need to have this play in mind. They need to do something with the card to make it more valuable than it was when they bought it. And that, my friends, would be shifting it over into a PSA slab, right? But at your discretion, everyone, since this is your thousands of dollars that you would all be spending on any of these cards, you got to make the determination. Hey, do I do this with, do I do this with the crack and submit method? Is that risky? Do I do it with a crossover submission method with a minimum grade so that I'm not, worst case scenario, I'm not out a ton of money? But these are low risk, high reward options. Of course, if you're a one-on-one strategist member at nooffseason.com, I will help you with this play. You can email me at paul@nooffseason.com for me to work directly with you. I'll send you information on that. If you're interested, email me at paul@nooffseason.com. I only take on a handful of people at a time. Now it's time for our bonus card. The bonus card, this is actually a play that I'm in the middle of making. I've got like a variant to the play that I'm about to tell you, though. So the Michael Jordan 1987 Fleer Base 59 is more affordable, obviously, than the 1986 Fleer 57 base, right? But the grail, like the big thing to do would be to try to get this card in a PSA 10, because there's a massive difference from a PSA 9 to a PSA 10 of this card. And there's actually a massive difference from a PSA 8 to a PSA 9. So a PSA 8 sells for about $403. A PSA 9 sells for $1,230. So I've tried to make that bump before. It hasn't really gone well. Like I've cracked a slab. I think it was an SGC 9. And I paid around $500 or $600 for it, and it got a PSA 7. So I was out quite a bit, thinking it was for sure going to get a PSA 8 or 8.5, which would have been an 8's $403, an 8.5's $850. That did not go my way. So I was telling you earlier in the show that, you can really burn yourself even with the crack and submit from a reputable grading company. So you got to be careful. You got to know your downside. But what you could all look to do is BGS 9 sells for about $670. Just straight over to a PSA 9 doubles, $1,230, right? So in PSA 8.5, $850. So you're still up, even in a PSA 8.5, you're still up a couple $100 before grading and eBay fees. Now, if you were to crack this somehow and get a PSA 8, which could very, very, very well could happen. Grading scales have changed. Graders have turned over. You've got different technology now, different grading company altogether. This could go, if you crack it, it could go from a BGS 9 down to a PSA 8 or even a PSA 7. So you'd be out quite a bit. So you got to be careful with this, but you do have the upside of about $560 if you were to go from a BGS 9 over to a PSA 9. You'd still have an upside of almost $200 if you go down to a PSA 8.5. It's if you get a PSA 8 that you're in trouble. So a crossover submission where you say minimum grade PSA 8.5 would be my recommendation, because if you get the 9, you're in the money. If you get the 8.5, you're still in the money, but it's kind of a wash. You don't lose anything. But if you if it's going to be a PSA 8, then they would just send you back your BGS 9. So I really like that one. Thanks everybody for going through that with me. What I'm going to do with this card is I just bought a BGS 9, but it has like a bunch of 9. It's got 3 9.5 subgrades and it has an 8 surface. And I could not tell. I don't have the card in hand yet. I could not tell what the surface issue was. So my thought is, what if I cracked that fucker out and submitted it? Now that's a big roll of the dice because I paid about $900 for the card. But I mean, if it gets a PSA 9, I'm still up a bit. If it gets a PSA 8, I'm screwed. So that'd be my risk, because I'd be out half my money. But with the 3.95 subgrades, what if it gets a PSA 10? If it gets a PSA 10, $14,100. So I'd go from, that would be a 14x. So I don't know. Let me know what you think I should do. Should I roll the dice big time, or should I, just send it in for a friendly crossover with a minimum grade? Not sure. Got to see the card first. And that's what I would hope all of you would do before you make your decision. Get the card in hand first, inspect it with a 10 times magnifier loop and a centering tool. You can find quick links to those tools at sportscardschool.com. Get a free 30-day trial at nooffseason.com today to start learning our guidelines, strategies, and plays to help you make money flipping sports cards to fund your PC and other things in your life. Sports Card School is a safe place for noobs, advanced flippers, and high rollers alike to learn how to navigate the hobby and ultimately build a collection that increases in value. Go to sportscardschool.com. All right, it's time for Will They Gem? A look at building my current grading submission and opinions from you all on whether or not you think they will gem. So as I show you the video, I'm going to narrate it and tell you the strategy behind why I am doing these. So let's get into it. And this answers Eric Sorensen's question of how's the next PSA shipment coming along? This is it. We got you, Eric. We see George Schur in the house. And a couple more great comments from Gabe and Kaiser Sose. We'll try to get to you guys at the end of the show. Up first is, Kaiser Sose. Up first is couple CJ Stroud rookies. So buying these base per the formula. Target cost is around $30 right now. Spent $29.99 on one. The PSA 10 upside is $120. High gem rate. This one looks a little off center on the back. I'm concerned. I mean, it's possible that PSA could grade it a 10, but it looks a little off center on the front, a little off center on the back, and the rest of the card has to be perfect to even have a chance. So I think that one's going to be a 9. I think I'm going to be out my grading fee on that, which means because the PSA 9 sells for $28. So I think I'm going to be out my grading fee. What's up to Rusty McGart? Color Match Collect in the house. And we got another Stroud up next for $24.75 is what I bought it for. So right where the formula is telling me to buy these at. And again, if it gems, and I want you to tell me whether or not you think it will gem. Tell me in the comments at youtube.com/Paul Hickey if you think it's going to gem. But I'd make quite a bit. I'd go from $25 plus the grading fee, which was another $16 with the special, to 120 if I sold it right now, because that's what the going rate is. Now, of course, we say to buy cards with a selling marker in mind, not necessarily if it's raw to grade, because you don't need a selling marker. But if you buy the right card for the right player at the right time and use our formula to project its ROI, then sell it at its selling marker, there's a chance you can sell it for more. So that's what I'm trying to do with these Strouds, is probably wait till the selling marker. So I could, if I could sell it now, if it gems for 120, I think this one has a better chance of gemming than the first one, just because while the back is a little off center slightly, the front looks very nicely centered. So I think I might have 1 out of 2 gems on that one. I'll of course report back. Here's another guy that I've added to the formula coming up next. And it's speculation on my part. We've talked about the backup QB strategy before on the Sports Card Strategy Show a lot. And I love the backup QB strategy for a lot of guys because they're young right now. They're young and unproven. And one guy that's young and completely unproven, and you guys are going to hate how this one comes out of the cardboard. I definitely said, what the F, audibly as I actually opened this, but I muted the sound on the actual video. But you've got like a quarter of the card sticking up out of the top loader. Just absolutely ridiculous. So it's in cardboard, but like a quarter of the card is sticking up outside of the top loader. Even like half of the top quarter, I guess would be the top eighth of the card, is even outside the penny sleeve. So that was ridiculous, but I don't think it affected the condition of the card. And this is Hendon Hooker, his 2023 Panini Prism Pandora, serial numbered out of 400. I think this is a badass card. I think this is a sick looking card. I think this one will gem, and I have no idea what to tell you that it'll actually go for, because there's really not much sales data on Hendon Hooker. So in the formula, what we've done is we've used the historical data of a lot of other similar type players heading into their second year as Hendon Hooker. But for as much attention and hype as the Detroit Lions have now with their young team, hoping to get back and further than the conference championship, all it takes is one play to Jared Goff, and all of a sudden you've got a massive spike in Hendon Hooker's value. So that's why I'm going in a little bit on Hendon Hooker. There's a lot of Hendon Hooker cards that we've run through the formula right now at nooffseason.com. Definitely check that out. We really feel confident in the data and the numbers behind the play that would require an injury to Jared Goff this year. But even if Goff doesn't get injured this year, Hendon Hooker still could be the future of the Detroit Lions, and there could still be a lot of hype around him for the foreseeable future. So I do see that card going up in value. What I'm hoping for on the Hendon Hooker is obviously a PSA 10, which would increase the value from the $35.10 that I paid for it significantly anyway, and put me in a position where I could just flip it even without the selling marker. Shane Graham in the house. What's up? Good to see you. Eric Sorensen, Joel Kaplan in the house. Now what we're doing here is I've bought a Connor Bedard Upper Deck Series 2 Young Guns BGS 9.5. So we've talked a lot on this episode about cracking and submitting. We've talked about crossover submitting. What I'm doing here is a calculated crack and submit. In last week's episode, I cracked Connor Bedard SGC 10 on the Will It Gem segment. And on today's episode of the Will It Gem segment, we've got a 9.5 from BGS. And so I'm cracking it, and I'm speeding things up a little bit here because this one took me a long time, because the newer BECKETT slabs are harder to crack. I'm just going to say, like, you can still crack them, but I don't know if they're purposely harder to crack or if it's just the fact that they're new. It's like new plastic that has just been encapsulated versus like older plastic that was encapsulated several years ago, maybe by a different machine. But it just took me a while. See, I'm chipping away at it. There's shards flying everywhere, but I use my plastic container to keep them all in place. And so I'm chipping away at it. I got my little tiny flathead screwdriver there. Finally, I get the Fokker off, but it does have 395 subgrades, 19 subgrade, and it's the edges, which is they're a little dicey on the Young Guns anyway, because they've got this photo where you can't really tell what's going on, if it's an edge issue or if it's the photo. So I do think there's actually a chance that this could get a PSA 9, unfortunately, due to the top edge has a couple minor issues, but I guess it's conceivable that it could still get a PSA 10. I have had edge issues on new cards before that have still got a PSA 10. This one did get a BGS 9.5. So the economics of this one, I'm $606 into this card right now in the BGS 9.5. And it sells for $938 in PSA 10. And that could very well go up. Again, we talked about not needing a selling marker when you use the formula for these cards, but pairing it together with a selling marker is better, and it could go up definitely during Connor Bedard's second season in the NHL. So I think that it will. And if it does gem at PSA, I could initially sell it for a $300 profit right off the bat without waiting, which I probably would. If it doesn't gem, it's going to go down to a PSA 9, which would be $370. So I would be out a couple $100. And in that case, I may wait to see if the PSA 9 goes up during his second season. So, yes, there we go. There we go. We have cracked a Darius Garland Kaboom BGS 9.5. We've cracked a Connor Bedard Young Guns BGS 9.5. We've cracked a Connor Bedard SGC 10. We've bought Hendon Hooker Pandora Prism out of 400 raw. And we're looking at a solid grading submission. We've cracked the Caleb Williams SGC 1010. And we've got some Victor Wembanyama silvers, some CJ Stroud bases. And for those of you watching on youtube.com/Paul Hickey, behind me, there's a big mail day here. There's a stack of mail. In the mail is a hobby box of 2024 Bowman baseball. I bought it to support our guys at Graybo's and to rip it myself. Rip and grade, baby. Rip and grade. So there will be some cards from that hobby box of 2024 Bowman baseball that are going to go in this upcoming grading submission to PSA. There's the Arena Club slabs back there, and then there's several other CJ Stroud raw rookies that are going to go in. And again, the formula, baby, nooffseason.com is leading the charge on what I'm doing. I built it for myself. I'm sharing it with all of you guys, and let's make some money. So speaking of making money, you gotta buy the right card for the right player at the right time for the right price, everybody. For the right price. You know what that means? It's time for okay being outbid. So let's talk about a few cards recently that I have missed on that I'm okay on. And a lot of these I've run through the formula at nooffseason.com. And that is why I know I can only go to a certain amount on this cards. Like I would say that the example of the first card here is the biggest reason why you shouldn't listen to anyone who's not using the formula. You should not listen to anyone who's not using the formula, because people who don't use the formula aren't taking into account truly what the target price needs to be for an already graded card. Because you can't just go, oh, I think this is the right card and this is the right player and it's the NFL offseason, therefore it's the right time to buy it, without digging in further and having a target price and a projected sale price based on real data. And that's what the formula does. So the Jordan Love Optic Purple Shock PSA 10, I missed out on. I lost an auction at $197.50. And while that card could go up, The target price that everyone should be buying it at right now to actually make money on it is $111. $111 is the target price. You can't let that thing go up to 200 and expect to make money on it. Now, even if the card continues to sell for 200, the formula tells us that it's not going to go up above that. So it's going to be an L. I also had a target bid on a Hendon Hooker Prism Silver. $15 is where you want to be on that one. And again, you can go to nooffseason.com. You can check out the player profile for Hendon Hooker, for Jordan Love. And you can find links to these cards, and you can find ones yourself to bid on, courtesy of our player profiles at nooffseason.com. You can get there from the sports card rankings. You can get there from the formula-based sports card rankings. But I lost an auction at $16.50 because it's going to start to really eat into my profit margin if I don't truly stay on the target price for that card. So $16.50, too high for me. Got to be $14.99 or less. I know it's only $1.50, but these things matter when it comes to buying raw and grading. All right, now one that I was a little bit bummed to lose on because I really like this guy. I think he's going to have a monster season. Is Bijan Robinson, his 2023 Prism Silver. I lost a bid on it. I think this one's going to gem. I lost a bid for $26. I did actually go as high as 25 because I was okay with this particular card because I did believe it was going to gem. However, $15 is the target price. So I was really okay being outbid on this one. I think that I was saved. I was saved by the fact that somebody else wanted it much more than I did. And I am okay being outbid on that one. All right. We've got a super chat from Mr. T. So we're going to stop everything. When somebody pays us money during the show via the live chat at youtube.com/Paul Hickey, we stop everything. So thank you, Mr. T. We really appreciate you for the super chat. He says, are we grading Topps Now and Panini Instant NFL draft cards, pass or play? Hard pass for me. Hard pass for me. There's other cards for these guys. We are living in an era where we have Bowman Chrome first autos. We have more cards coming out. There's going to be Prism draft picks coming out. By the time that you buy these, there's certain plays, Mr. T, that this makes sense for. We talked about Caitlin Clark a couple of shows ago in her Panini Instant, right? And I think there's going to be a little bit of a runway to get those cards back from Panini, to grade them at PSA, to be first to the market on them. But the thing that worries me about the Topps Now and Panini Instant NFL draft cards are because the Topps Now ones are unlicensed, first of all. The Panini Instant ones aren't the greatest. They don't always have the greatest quality, as we've seen before with the Victor Wembanyama Panini Instants. And Panini's going to continuously come out with more and more cards for these guys, and so is Topps. And they're not going to be the right cards really until Prism comes out, or some licensed version of a Topps Chrome rookie. Maybe it's a guy who ends up being Fanatics exclusive and it's an auto and it's not licensed. Okay. So point is that there's going to be more and more cards coming out for these guys. And we're going to be in a situation where by the time that we get these cards back from Panini or Topps, grade them at PSA, get them back from PSA, and then list them, other cards will be on the market for these guys, and we will be at a break even at best. The only caveat would be if you can somehow get a Jaden Daniels auto, which I don't even think you can anymore, or you get some parallel from Topps Now. Panini Instant does not come with parallels when you buy the base. Topps Now comes with the chance of serial numbered parallels when you buy the base. But that, Mr. T, is the equivalent of getting lucky ripping wax. I'd rather see you put your money elsewhere. You're looking at a minimum $600 play to grade at PSA anyway. So there's so many other places. People come to me and they're like, oh, I don't have any money. I don't have the budget. of $300 or $400 for a card, but I followed your play of the grading all the Connor Bedard stickers. And I'm like, well, wait a minute. That was like a $300 or $500 play. So you do have the money. You just spent it on the wrong thing. So I think that we need to be very, very careful with these plays. I love the question, Mr. T. The answer is pass. All right. Good to see Jim Cunningham in the live chat. Jim, appreciate the love. And here we go. Let's keep it rolling. Are you ready to start grading your cards? CGC Cards is the perfect place to slab your favorite sports cards. From their crystal clear holders to their affordable pricing, CGC Cards is the perfect stop for your grading needs. Go to cgccards.com to start grading today. All right, it's time for some great CGC data, courtesy of our guy Andy Kaysen of the Football Card Quest. We love Andy's stuff. Check him out at youtube.com/footballcardquest. Check him out at footballcardquest.com. Check him out right here on the Sports Card Strategy feed. He and Carter Bryant have a football market report show that comes on the Sports Card Strategy podcast feed every Tuesday, and that's a great show. So Andy sent me this data. He's forever on the lookout for comparing CGC to PSA. And so if you look at Devontae Adams 2014 Contenders rookie ticket autos, on April 26th, a CGC 10 sold with a best offer accepted of $200. That outsold a PSA 10 of the same card. 13 bids on a PSA 10 sold a month earlier for $191.50 on eBay. A CGC 10 sold a month later for $200. That's awesome. That's awesome. All right. And then on May 1st, a BGS 9.5 of the same card sold for $135. So in this vacuum of the Devontae Adams 2014 rookie ticket auto, CGC wins. CGC 10, then PSA 10, then BGS 9.5. Very interesting. All right, everybody, it's time for a PSA reveal. I've got a big time reveal, big news here. And congrats to NoOffSeason.com family member Jim Mint Cards, Jim McKeedon. If you recall, I ripped a box of 2023 Prism basketball as a giveaway to premium members. And I ripped a box of 2023 Prism football as a giveaway to premium members and as a way of seeing if we could profit from ripping wax and grading. And on the football, we were under quite a bit. We got a Jordan Addison rookie auto was our biggest hit. But on the basketball hobby box, we hit it big with this Ruby Wave 2023 Victor Wembanyama Prism. And it got a PSA 10. I sent it in for free for Jim. I just did it as a courtesy. He paid the grading fee. But he won the card, and I included it in a bulk value submission. And because I included it in a bulk value submission at $16.99, which, by the way, was done in about 4 weeks. So kudos to PSA. We love CGC cards, but kudos to PSA because they're getting this thing done. Even in the April special, mine popped in about 4 weeks. So I got an email, and there's all this discussion in the hobby about stuff like this. It's like, oh, I'm scared of the grading level only being at a $500 insured value. Oh, it's a ripoff because to get it insured at $1,200, it's more money and they might charge you more. No, that's not how it works. Here's how it works. You can submit all of your cards at any service level. If any of your cards cost more for PSA to ship them back to you, that is the declared value. That is what it means. If any of your cards cost PSA more to ship them back to you, based on the fact that now this is a $1,100 card in a PSA 10, they bump up your service fee on this one card from $17 to $75. Okay, so you pay $48 more to have a card that's now 1.1K instead of like less than $500. So if you ever get this PSA upcharge, it's a win. Now, if you're someone who's submitting cards, like hundreds and hundreds of cards, at say $19.99, and like hundreds of the cards come back with the upcharge, now you've got a significant fee to pay out of pocket. But that is a very, very different scenario if you're just submitting like, 20 or 30 cards and one or two of them ends up being a little bit higher than what we thought. So this card will be shipped back to Jim as soon as I get it. And it'll be in his portfolio or his collection, and he'll keep us posted. But being a premium member at nooffseason.com, in addition to the great member benefits that you get from the regular premium package, which is Sports Card School, the formula-based rankings, the 2 or 3 premium articles a week, the premium pod, unlimited answers to your questions throughout the year to help you make money flipping sports cards. You also, from time to time, get the ability, apparently, to win for free a card that ends up being an $1,100 card. So congrats to Jim. All right, I'm going to walk you guys through the rest of the grading submission with some notable things here. My Charlie Woods SI for Kids that I tore out of the magazine got a 5. I'm pretty happy with that. I'll have to check the sales data on what that thing's selling for. A Trey Lance Obsidian Electric Etch auto out of 75. Electric Etch Orange out of 75. Rookie auto. Great looking card. Got a 9. I'm okay with that. A Breece Hall No Huddle Prism Rookie Autograph. Got a 9. I'm okay with that. A Breece Hall Electric Etch Green out of 50. So I guess this could be a Jets color match if you consider that. Got an 8. So wish I would have done better on that, but still a great card that I could potentially sell for a profit. Couple of Quinn Ewers Saturday Star Signature rated prospect. This would be like the equivalent of his Bowman Chrome U first auto, although he does not have that because he's Panini exclusive. So this one got a 9, and then I got another one that got an 8. So excited to sell my Quinn Ewers cards coming up here in September. So a 9, 1 9. I actually had 3 of these, 1 9 and 2 8s. So not the best grade rate there, but got a few Quinn Ewers. Now this one's interesting. The reason I included this one is because I had 2 2023 National Treasures Collegiate Donruss Optic auto. And these were actually out of Chronicles draft picks. So it's a weird situation because it's a Chronicles, but it's a National Treasures Optic rated prospect card. So this would be like Arch's equivalent of a Bowman U Chrome first auto, but he does not have them either. One got a 9 and one got an 8, but listen to this. This was the second time that I submitted these cards to PSA. One I cracked out of an SGC 9. The other one I got raw on eBay that passed the authenticator, the eBay authenticator. But the first time I submitted these to eBay, they got an N6 designation, which does not meet minimum size requirements. So that's very frustrating to get that. I don't know why that happens. I can only speak to my experience. I sent these back in and they did get graded. So I am happy that they are graded. I think the only reason why I can think of that this happens is because some graders are more experienced than others. And I think the less experienced graders maybe are scared to grade something that could be trimmed. And so while some cards legitimately legitimately are not trimmed, they might actually not meet the minimum size requirements. And then I think you might have some other graders that know that, this one actually is legit and is not trimmed. And so they grade it. So if you can afford to, I would encourage that if you ever get an N6 designation from PSA, you submit the card again in a different submission, because it worked for me. Hopefully it would work for you. My best grade of the bunch is this Bowman U Chrome Shadur Sanders First Prospect Auto PSA 10. Definitely will profit on that one. I now own several of those cards, bought several of them raw, graded them. Happy to get another gem on that. Riley Leonard Orange Auto out of 25. Got a PSA 9. That was one I cracked out of an SGC slab. I think it was a 9-9, so kind of right on there. This one I bought on the Sports Card Strategy Show. I got an offer accepted on the Sports Card Strategy Show, a 2023 Bowman U Sapphire Riley Leonard. It was an SGC 1010. Got a 10. Got a PSA 10. So that's a big win. Carson Beck. The grades did not come back as well as I would have liked, but I still like these cards. An orange auto out of 25. First got an 8. A refractor out of 499 auto got a 9. And let's see. I lost my screen share here, so it's throwing me off. I'll be back in a sec. Second refractor auto out of 499 got an 8. A third refractor auto out of 99 got a 9. So 2 9s and an 8. A base auto got a 9. So you can see, I'm heavily invested in Carson Beck now. And then a base refractor got a 10. And I think, here's a little tip. The base refractor came as extra packing material with one of the other autos that I bought. And so I decided to grade that for a couple of reasons. One is because it was the April special. 2 is because it helps you get up to the minimum faster. And 3 is it looked like it was going to gem. And so it's a free card. Now I'm only $16 into this PSA 10 Carson Beck. Jackson Dart is another guy that is targetable. So a fuchsia mini diamond refractor out of 150 that I picked up at the Nashville Card Show got a 9. And then a auto that I thought could potentially gem got a 9. And then a regular base that was packing material got an 8. So you win some, you lose some on these grading submissions, but I wanted to get you guys an idea of not only who I'm buying, with the actual plays I'm making, and then all of these insights along the way that can help you navigate the hobby. Hello to Koa in the live chat. Hello to Franco in the live chat, asking questions. Franco, appreciate your questions in the live chat. Hopefully the guys are giving you good answers. Highly, highly recommend you get a free 30-day trial at nooffseason.com, and I can answer all of your questions for you at nooffseason.com/ask. Gabe Davis likes some Dart and some Beck. I do as well. All right. Before we wrap up the show here, I'm going to give you some breaking news from the eBay PSA Vault. So this is from eBay about the PSA Vault. So there are some key dates that have been announced. They say on May 20th, so that's a week from today, account holders will be unable to create any new vault listings, auction or fixed price, or make any new direct vault submissions. All existing live vault auction or listings will be allowed to run their course naturally. That's significant because, you know, I have a vault listing up right now in a buy it now or best offer for a Darius Garland Kaboom PSA 10, which is only a pop 12, by the way. So I'm going to have to make a decision on that coming up here. On May 30th, all live vault auctions will have closed by this time, and any remaining live vault fixed price listings and drafts will be removed. And then it says early June 2024. Access to the new PSA Vault experience will begin on a rolling basis. Prior to this launch, withdrawals will be temporarily disrupted. We will keep you updated on the status of your account. So I have an account, like I have a PSA account and an eBay account, right? I think many of you probably do. If you're listening to this show and you don't, you're probably a new listener and you probably will soon. And if you need any help with that, definitely go to nooffseason.com and take sports card school. But what this means to me is that basically, they're transitioning the virtual vault from eBay to PSA, and they need these things to essentially freeze so that things don't get mismanaged and not literally lost in real life, but like lost in the shuffle virtually, from having sold when it was actually not able to sell and different things like that. So to me, this seems like good news that this is happening quickly. And it says early June. It should be the new PSA Vault experience will begin on a rolling basis. They're giving themselves some leeway there. Here's what they don't say, though. They don't say when we'd be able to get our items shipped directly to us from the eBay Vault free of charge, which is what they did say in the initial announcement. So now I'm a little leery of having them ship my cards from the eBay Vault for a few reasons. I think number one, if it's in the vault, it's a very expensive card. And so if you're going to ship like multiple very expensive cards to a physical address, it can increase anxiety levels. And so what I think I'm going to do is just simply wait until everything is over in the new PSA Vault. And then they give like clear indications on, okay, now you can relist this on eBay, or you can ship this back to yourself. Or maybe here's the other thing I'm looking at. I've got some SGC 1010s in my eBay vault. What if once it's in the PSA vault, they will crossover grade it from the PSA vault? That would be pretty sick. So I'm looking to maybe do some tricky stuff like that. Everybody, thanks so much for being here with me on the Sports Card Strategy Show. I hope we are helping you make money flipping sports cards, but more than that, I hope that we're just fun and entertaining and helping you enjoy the hobby. Everybody, thanks so much and have a great day. I'm Paul Hickey. Please check out nooffseason.com, and I'll see you again soon here on the Sports Card Strategy Show. Thanks so much for being here with us on the Sports Card Strategy Show. To connect with us further, please subscribe to the YouTube channel at youtube.com/Paul Hickey. Please also give us a follow on Instagram at Sports Card Strategy and on X at NoOffSeasonCard. We also have a Discord that you could join at sportscardstrategy.com. Everyone, I'm Paul Hickey. For the rest of us here at nooffseason.com, have a great day. We'll see you again soon.